Tell me a little bit about your work history, sir.
Well, like one famous painter once said, most people don't dream in being in the painting business, they just end up there. And that's kind of a little bit about my story. I did not, when I was your age, Ephraim, I did not dream of growing up and being a painter or owning a paint company. That wasn't even on my radar screen. But when I turned 16 and I started to drive, wanted to be able to work during the summers. In my home, we paid for a lot of our own things ourselves. My parents weren't well-to-do, so we provided most things financially for ourselves. So I wanted to go get a job. My older brother was a painter. He was early in college. He was working on a summer crew, knew some guy that had a painting company. So I just tagged along with him for the first summer and worked with several different painting companies throughout high school, a little bit in college. When I was in grad school, moved my family out. I was married and had one child and one on the way, and had a job lined up before I moved out to Indiana. But when I got out there, the job fell through within a week or two. And I was like, wow, what am I going to do? And so, well, I looked back, I was like, well, I know how to paint. I didn't really know how to run a paint business or even how to quote jobs. And so early on, I made some business cards out, passed them to a lot of realtors in town because my parents were realtors. And so I knew every realtor needed a painter, and started getting phone calls in, and made a lot of mistakes right off the beginning for sure. But so it kind of ended up there. Did some other things after grad school. So actually passed that business on to another student, and it's actually still running in Indiana today. Did some other things for about 5 or 6 years. Moved back to Columbus, my hometown, about 15 years ago. And again, I needed to put food on the table. Both my wife's family and my family are from the Columbus area. And so we know lots of people, hundreds and hundreds of people. So honestly, it was quite easy to start a painting business. Everyone needs a painter, at some point in time. And so it was relatively easy to start it back up here in Columbus because we simply knew so many people, and because painting is such an easy business to start and get into off the bat.
What would you say the hardest part of like your everyday what you do? Like, is it dealing with other people? Is it just like lining up jobs?
No, I mean, for me, a lot of that is outside of my realm now. We've developed positions and in the company that do a lot of those things. My work is really a lot more mental and emotional. So I'm probably in the stage of the hardest work that I've ever done, because it's one thing to go out and physically paint a wall or paint a house. Now I really have to think through. I've got to educate myself. I need to be aware of what's going on in the culture, economically, how things are changing in the market. And that's always changing. I mean, to learn to paint a wall, once you learn to paint a wall, you keep on painting a wall. And so now it's hard work because I have to constantly be recognizing what's going on, and also with the people around us. A lot of times when you're managing people, you have to be cognizant of what is happening outside of the work world, marriage, family, health, because that impacts their work life. And so really trying to be aware of what's going on outside of the work world, so I can best help manage and care and help them through their work responsibilities.
So, would you say your company is at its apex of growth, or do you think you could still grow some more?
Oh, I think the sky's the limit, honestly. Yeah, like this past summer, we had about 35 employees. We're just under the $2 million mark right now. I mean, I just talked to a business owner that's in a town probably a tenth the size of Columbus, and he's running almost a $20 million business. He's got 155 painters. So I think the only thing that limits us is staying faithful to our mission, and staying faithful to our company values. And if we can hire people on who want to go in the same direction that we're going and can incorporate and live out our company values and champion them, I don't think there's a limit on what we could do and become.
Like, how much of your business is repeat customers, and how much is just like new people?
Yeah, the one thing we're working on right now is our metrics. We don't have a really great software right now and a system and process that tells us that. And to my shame, I should know those numbers, but we don't really have a great piece of software right now. That's the one hitch that we have in our company is technology. We haven't figured out what software we want to use that takes our clients from the beginning phone call all the way through to the end, where then we can tag how much revenue has come through in those different. I could do it, but I have to use Excel spreadsheets and da 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 da. I would say probably right now, probably 25% of our business comes through repeat business. But I don't know the exact. I can't be certain of that. So yeah, that's an area we're working on, our metrics and how to track things.
How do you deal with a client that's vision doesn't quite line up with yours?
well, we try to disqualify them. We really try to move on and recognize when a client has expectations or timing or whatever it may be that doesn't line up with what we can do. So honestly, we try to do that early on in the process, and we don't feel like a potential client is a good fit for us, then we'll try to graciously let them know that and try to move on and maybe even recommend them to something else. But there are times where you enter into a business transaction and that relationship doesn't go as smoothly as you'd like it to. And sometimes sometimes you just do what you do, get out, move on to the next client. Sometimes we just had one recently where we had to put a lien on their house, take them to small claims court. Thankfully, we got the Better Business Bureau involved. We used a mediator, and they finally paid up at least most of what they were responsible for. So sometimes you also have to, it's a tough love, because I love my clients, but I love my employees. And that client was trying to take us to the ringer and not pay what was rightfully due. So.
Yeah. And what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job? Is it like just interacting with people, or is it?
Yeah, it's our employees. I come to work. Here's a dirty little secret about me. I don't even like to paint. I enjoyed it when I was doing it. I love to see what was going on, but I love the other young men and women we work with. I love developing people. So what really gets me going is not really our clients. It's not really our projects. It's our employees. And so, Cameron Mitchell, I heard him speak at a small business conference that I attended a couple years ago. And I'm sure it's not new to him, but I'm going to give him credit. He said, as a business owner, my main responsibility is care for my employees. If my employees are cared for and they enjoy coming to work, they're going to provide incredible customer service to our clients. When our clients are cared for and they have a great experience, they are more than willing to take care of the company. And so my role and the thing I enjoy most is caring for our employees, making sure they're growing and developing, being successful. So that kind of fits really well in that cycle of success.
Yeah, it seems like you really want the best for your people who work under you. That's great. And how do you train your employees to a standard of perfection? How do they get there? Is it really long process, or is it relatively short?
Well, I think for any business, it's probably a little bit different depending on the level of job or sophistication or education that's needed. We're getting better and better at that. I can't say that we have every position fully developed, but a lot of things we're recognizing is you can't teach someone until you have those systems and processes written out. E-Myth Revisited, a great book on entrepreneurship. So if anyone's listening who wants to start a business or who's in the middle of the small business, you got to read E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And one of the things he says in there is you can never pass on a position until you have it documented. You have to get all that information out of your head and put it on paper and sort through it and create expectations and steps and systems and processes so someone else can do the job that you used to do. And so, you develop people by writing out systems and processes and expectations so that it's clear what you need and require of them in that particular position.
Yeah. So what types of books would you recommend for beginners other than that one?
Yeah, E-Myth is a great one. Traction by Gino Wickman would be the next read.
I've read that one before.
It's a little bit bigger. It's more how to then develop your starter business into a more fully functioning running business. That's been a huge book for us, and it's called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, how to he provides the rails to run on to really grow and develop a business and stay on track, keep on growing, keep on developing. Those are the two books that have been probably the most pivotal books in our business life.
Yeah. And I mean, books are always great because you can always expand, you can always read
Mm-hmm.
something new and learn something new. So, what systems do you have in place for your business? Like what types of roles do you have for your employees, and like how did that all play out in your business?
Yeah, so it really goes back to E-Myth, and then also traction is recognizing there are certain segments of the business. So again, the three main segments in any business is sales and marketing, operations, and then administration. And that has to do with administration, finance, HR, and IT. And then within each one of those, so for us in our business, we are very heavy in the operations. So most of our employees fall under the operations role. In some businesses, they're going to have a lot more salespeople because maybe they're selling technology that has already been developed, and their operation department is much smaller than the sales department, for example. But for us, it's the operation. So recognizing those different segments of business, mapping out what that department is responsible for, and then mapping out the different roles within that department to accomplish. So for instance, in operation, we have an operation manager, and then we have foremen, and then we have painters. And each one of those, and that'll continue to develop. We've brought on an operation manager assistant. And so whenever you bring a new role in, again, you have to map it out and you have to clearly designate what are the 4 or maybe 5 main components of their job that they're, that you're going to grade them on. How any employee needs to know what success looks like in their role. So that would be another way of, every employee should know, am I being successful or am I not being successful? And so you have to document those things and write out those expectations. This is what success looks like in your role. And that may change from month to month and certainly year to year.
Yeah. So, more on your salespeople, do they have to go out and find people, or do people just come to you just because of your big name?
Yeah. At this point in time, we have a lot of folks that come to us on the residential side. We both do residential repaints and commercial. So we don't do a lot of new construction at all. So most of our painting has to do with coating buildings that have already been constructed and painted before. So on the residential side, yeah, most of the time we don't prospect or cold call residential. But on the business side, yes, we go to network groups, we do cold call campaigns, we do mailer campaigns. We're in the middle of several right now. So yeah, B2B, you're going to be a lot more aggressive. Residential, it's much more passive marketing, like online and those kind of things. And obviously referral.
What drives you to actually just do painting? Like, what makes you just do it every day and run your business and keep it up when you could probably easily do something else with your mind and stuff? So, like,
well, part of it is it's really what I know. I mean, I've spent most of my working life in the construction realm, other than a few years doing other things. And so part of it is just comfort level. I know it. I'm not a big risk taker, quite honestly, even though I'm an entrepreneur and I started a business twice. I did it out of desperation both times to some extent, and I did it doing something that I had already done. There are some people who get into businesses and they've never done that line of work and they've just bought a franchise or they've just whatever. So what motivates me really comes back not to the painting. It really comes back to the people. I love seeing our employees growing and developing. We get together, our employees, a number of times a year. I love seeing their families grow, their kids, their spouses, growing both personally, professionally, spiritually. That's probably the best part of my job is watching the people around me growing. And especially in this day and age where a lot of people, look down on wealth. What people don't realize is the freest countries in the world are the wealthiest countries in the world, because poverty is a tool to control people. If I can make somebody poor, then I can control them. If I can introduce wealth into their life, I give them a whole lot more freedom to make decisions for their life that they weren't able to make before. And that's pretty rewarding, be able to help
Yeah.
people grow financially and to be able to make decisions that they weren't able to make 5 years ago, quite honestly.
Yeah. One of the nice things about wealth is that you don't only help yourself, you can always help others and stuff. So it's
Mhm.
always
It's
a
a
good
win-win.
feeling to do that. Yeah. It's not
Yeah,
just,
yeah. Too many people feel like it's a win-lose. Like if the company or the owner of the company wins, then the employees have to lose. No way.
yeah, everybody
I
profits.
Well, yeah. In that business cycle, like I talked about earlier, the owner should win, the employee should win, and the client should win. And if all three people don't win in a business transaction model, then you're not going to stay in business for very long.
Yeah.
So.
Would you say that your job affects your family life quite a bit, or is it just easier to
Well,
work
let's just
around
put
your
it this
schedule?
way. Every single adult child has worked at Final Touch Painting at some point in time. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it partly because it's not a sophisticated business. Um, my kids can be involved in it as they get older. Everything from doing stuff around the office and stuffing envelopes and mailers to actually doing painting. One of my older daughters is now a client rep. She does sales for us, and that's a joy to be able to work with her in that role, and celebrate when she wins. But yeah, it definitely does. And obviously, anytime you own a business, it's not an 8 to 5 job. So there are times where I have to deal with things on the nights and the weekends. But the blessing to that too is it's also given us a level of financial freedom that we didn't have 10 years ago. So like for instance, this January we're taking time to go down to Florida for 3 weeks. We didn't have that freedom to do that 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So the business has actually freed me up so I can spend spend more time with my family. It's what's interesting. I kind of felt guilty about that, but our leadership team actually said, Eric, you have spent 15 years building this business. You need to go take some extra time with your family.
Yeah.
So the fact is, I was excited about that because they were the ones who were encouraging me to go take extra time off, not telling me I need to stay here. And when your employees are telling you to go away for the good of your family, again, it's that win-win-win, right? They don't feel like I'm the only one winning. They know they're winning. They know our clients are winning. And so they want me to continue to have a healthy family life so I can come to work, not drained, but giving back to them.
How do you feel like your job has helped your children grow as entrepreneurs? Do you think that they'll be driving forward to do like the same type of thing, or do you think it's made them inoculated against this type of business?
Well, time will tell. My oldest daughter just married a young man, and I think they're definitely probably going to start their own business at some point in time. My second oldest son is just now getting into the adult world. He doesn't really want to do it. He doesn't really necessarily have the personality to be an entrepreneur or a risk taker as well. And then my other children are teenagers and younger. I have a total of 7 children. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much of them want to take on that risk of being an entrepreneur, and those who would rather take maybe a safer route, a more comfortable route, and just work for someone else. And either one's fine. I'm okay with either one. I think recognizing, I mean, I always kind of find it funny when people say they're going to college for a business degree. And I'm thinking, well, you're never going to learn how to start a business at college. You
Yeah.
may learn to work for an entrepreneur, but you're never going to learn how to start a business until just doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can read some books like E-Myth and, oh yeah, thanks, Dave. It's one of our great guys. So I'm reading obviously like books like E-Myth and Traction and some of those entrepreneur books are reading other stories, biographies of entrepreneurs. Honestly, to some extent, it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good to read by huge guys like Bill Gates and that kind of stuff. Read biographies of guys who started small little businesses, bakeries and that. But then go out and do something. I love what you're doing. I mean, we have bought some products off of you and one of your small businesses, your candle business, and you learn a lot of things about production and sales. We had some lessons this week on those kind of things. So, yeah, recognizing how business works, and that I like that idea, especially traction, that there's different segments in business. There's the sales, there's the operations, and there's the admin. That really helps a young entrepreneur recognize you have to have all three things working together to be good at business long term. And then for you, you need to be asking yourself, am I good at sales? Am I good at operations and organization and systems and processes? Or am I good at admin and finances and structure and accountability? Which one or two of those I'm good at? And then really recognizing where you're weak in and how you're going to have to supplement yourself. I mean, a young man like you can start hiring a virtual assistant. I mean, that's what's awesome about this is you can do things virtually and have someone working for you that's twice your age, 3 times your age. But if you're running a small legitimate business, you don't have to do every single thing with the business. So find out what you're good at and then delegate or hire out some of those other roles.
That's some good advice. Thank you. So to end it off here, what are the pros and cons of being an entrepreneur?
Pros and cons. Well, it's the risk and reward. I mean, the pros are the rewards, the cons are the risks, and you have to recognize you can't have one without the other. And that's what's so interesting about our economic client with the rise of socialism and free college tuition, all these kind of things. You can't have rewards without taking risks. And to remove the rewards from the risk and the risk from the rewards, you do someone a great disservice. So the cons are the risks, the extra time you're going to have to put in, the frustrations, the failures, and all those things are going to happen. And those are all wonderful learning lessons. The rewards, obviously, at the end are, financially, it's a great character development. You learn a lot more when you're running a business versus when you're just the one out there doing the actual work. And that's okay. Not everyone is built to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, some people just don't, they just couldn't take the stress of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's pros and cons, and on both sides are worth it.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for joining me today, and I hope that your business goes well and you'll be able to grow. And it sounds like you got a great group of employees behind you, so you'll do
well. We're a great team, and our passion. This is one question we didn't get to. You asked, what is the why of your business here in one of your notes, and the passion that drives our business is we call it boys to men and men to giants. The painting industry is largely male. In fact, it's construction. It's manual labor. It's hard. So 90% of our employees are male, and we love that idea of taking a boy, maybe mentally or maturity wise, and turning them into a man. But then when they grow up, helping men become giants, help them to take even larger steps in life, maybe even launching them out as a franchisee or their own little business owner. So our passion is watching people grow and develop. And so Ephraim, it fits right into what we want to do. I'm so glad and so thankful that you invited me on to What I Want to Be YouTube channel. And
it's great having you too.
Hopefully you'll have great success as well.
I hope to. So thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ephraim.
Bye.
Bye-bye.